In this video, we'll be talking a little bit about the oil catch cans for the Suzuki Cappuccino. This is my 1995 EA11R Suzuki Cappuccino. I don't know if the 21R is too different, but it shouldn't matter too much for this topic. Just some background on what's going on with the build right now. We're kind of in between things. If you're watching the oil leak investigation videos, transmission is still sitting over there, and I still got my prop shaft out. So we're still sitting up on the stands waiting for parts and time to get some things done. But while I've got the car lifted up to a comfortable level where I don't have to break my back to get down to it, and while, you know, I got some time on my hands after work, figured I could go over some maintenance things that I'm doing, and emptying my oil catch can is one of those things. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm an expert on oil catch cans or the PCV system, because I'm not. I've said it in a few other videos, I'm not really a mechanic. This is just a hobby for me. You know, I understand the need for it, and I understand that, you know, these cars in particular have a really dirty PCV system. So I would rather go ahead and install it and have it rather than not have it and have problems later on. So let's talk about what a PCV system is. And if you already know this, cool. This is for somebody who maybe doesn't know. PCV stands for positive crankcase ventilation. Basically, we don't want pressure inside of our crankcase. Positive pressure is bad, negative pressure is good. You know, in a perfect world, your crankcase would be at vacuum all the time, but that's just not the way it is. So your crankcase has to burp, has to breathe. And when it does that, there's a lot of, you know, unburnt fuel, oil vapors, water vapor. There's a bunch of gross stuff in that ventilation. Now, for emissions, or for, you know, being happy with Captain Planet, we don't want to just burp those out into the atmosphere. That's bad. It would also make a huge mess inside your engine bay. So we really, really don't want that. So what a lot of companies do, car manufacturers do. In fact, I think any car that's around now will have this, and that is the PCV system, where it basically recirculates all that gross contaminant back through the engine to have another chance to be burnt off, you know, through the heat, through the exhaust, and things like that. I can't say for every car, but on the Cappuccino, that's what this is here. So typically, I've got this set up for the catch can, which is why it goes in two different directions. But what you'll normally have here is just this elbow, this 90-degree elbow, and it will be turned 90 degrees and hooked up directly to there. So the inlet, so what's being pushed out of the crankcase, is going that way. It's coming back down through here, and it's dropping down there somewhere into your turbo. To be honest with you, I really don't even know where it feeds down into. I just know that in some way it makes itself back into the engine. So what a oil catch can is going to do, it's going to bypass that. So it's going to add another link in the chain before it feeds it back into the engine. So that's what you're looking at here. So this is coming out of the engine, running down here. I don't have my catch can hooked up. That's actually part of this video. I'm going to show you hooking up my catch can. So it goes from the crankcase into the catch can here. And then I have the outlet here, which is running back through that 90 and back down into the engine. So again, this is mostly to catch contaminants that are coming through the engine, and just to keep them from, you know, mucking up your engine as best as it can. Another thing I will say is that where I have my catch can installed really isn't the best place for it. We do want that catch can to be somewhere where it stays relatively warm. At the front of my engine bay was just the most convenient place that I had to put it. But with the air coming through the bonnet hood, you know, it keeps itself pretty cool. Like, you can touch it after I've driven this car for about 45 minutes. So that's not ideal. A couple better places you might want to put it. I've heard that people remove their carbon filter there and put it there. I guess that's if you don't have to pass emissions. I don't know enough about that to be brave enough to pull that off. Next place I was thinking about was right back in this area. So I do have the recirc valve unplugged, so it's basically acting like a blow-off valve, and that's what that line's for. I've got a cavity here I could figure out how to mount my catch can. So I might move that in the future. If you're getting started on a install, maybe look at trying to get it somewhere closer to maybe the sides of the engine best you can, wherever there's a lot of heat at. One other thing to think about when you're doing your install. So the way that I have this kind of doubling back and then coming and snaking around probably isn't really the best way to have this. We really want it to be as straight as possible. So what I should have done is cut this off probably right here and then just come straight off and come back down here to where my catch can goes. When I installed it, I was getting ready to take it on a pretty long road trip and I just kind of wanted to get it in. And I took the lazy route and haven't fixed it yet. So, all right, and so this is my catch can. So this is an Amazon, I don't even know if it has a brand name. I got it off Amazon, it was under $30. Really, you don't need something super fancy to do this job. I mean, it's a cappuccino. I don't need $1,000 catch can to do this. You can if you'd like to. I just didn't think it was absolutely necessary. So I got this Amazon one. It came, of course, with the catch can, with the bracket and this L bracket thing here. And I also have taken off my factory airbox. That's what this bracket is from. So I kind of just bent it and made it work. And it attaches to my driver's side headlight. I'll show you that when I get it installed. But that's kind of the bracket system I've got set up. I probably could cut this bit off down here. But again, when I installed this, it was just kind of a quick put it in and that's it, we're done. So what makes up a catch can? It's pretty much a can, which is going to be a reservoir. It's what all this is down here. You've got your inlet. You've got your outlet. On this one, it had a dipstick that I deleted because honestly, the color of the metal and the stuff that's coming out of the catch can, and it slides up and down through this like sleeve, made it absolutely pointless. It didn't do me any good. It told me that there was an amount of oil inside there, but it never actually told me a level. So I put a screw of the same size in there and called it a day. You've got this larger Allen head bolt up here. So in some cases, you would want to install a ventilation. I think that's if this catch can's on the other side of the PCV. In the cappuccino, we don't need it. Let me grab that real fast and I'll show you what I'm talking about. That would be this guy. Looks cool. I would like to have it on top of there and looking really neat and spiffy. But if you installed this the way that the cappuccino, or at least the way I have it installed, you would just be throwing oil and gross contaminant vapors all over your engine bay. And you really want to do that. So this guy's just sitting around waiting to be hooked up to something that can also look cool. So on the catch can, it does come with different size nipples for these, for the pipes that come off it, the hoses that come off of it. I think there was 3 different sizes. I'll put the link to this one down in the description for you guys in case you're interested. But I mean, really, it doesn't matter which one you get. I think they're all pretty much the same. The one thing that does make a difference on this one, if I can get the thing open. So the one thing that makes a difference on this one is that, let's see if I can get a picture of it, sort of. Back down in there is a brass filter. Some oil catch cans are going to be baffled and some are going to have that brass filter. From the research that I did, it sounds like the brass filter is better. Why? Couldn't honestly tell you. A filter sounds better than just straight baffles to me. So that's why I went with it. If you're smart and know the reason why, pop it down in the comments for somebody else. But I just went with this one because it was cheap and had a better option. This here is a baffle of sorts. Just keeps the oil and stuff from sloshing around and going back in the hoses and such. So on the inlet, I'm trying not to turn this upside down too much because it's kind of oily. So the outside, so this is what's going back into your engine, is just unobstructed. I don't know how well you can see down in there. But if you look down in there, tell you what, hold on. Let me take the baffle off and I'll show you better. Okay, there we go. Baffle is now off. This thing is gross and oily, but I guess this is stuff that I'm keeping out of my engine, so that's good. So like I said, you have the outside, which is what's going back into the engine. That is the unfiltered side, and then you have the inside, which is going to pass through the brass filter. I've done a bit of research trying to figure out why you would have the filter on the inside and not the outside, and to be honest with you, I have no idea. I'm sure it has something to do with burn off and making sure large contaminants not passing through here. I don't know. Maybe you do. And again, if you do, pop it down in the comments because I really would like to know. There's a lot of information out there on how to install catch cans, but there's not really a whole lot of explanation on the brass filter and its purpose. So anyway, this is the top of the catch can. If the dipstick were in here, it would come down through that opening and come down. But like I said before, it has to pass through this baffle. So it basically scraped off the edges of the dipstick every single time. So I thought it was kind of pointless. The actual can itself is not very big. For the cappuccino, honestly, I don't think you need a very big one. I mean, this one's maybe about 2/3 the height of a can of Coke or a soda. Probably, actually, you could probably fit one down inside there. Inside, I have some steel wool. It needs to be still, still, however you say that. That way it doesn't rust, corrode, and get gross. This can kit that I bought, the one that I've got in the description, came with the steel wool. The instructions had no mention of what the steel wool was for, why you should use it. I thought it was for some cleaning purpose. Turns out what it's actually for is to create more surface area for the heat inside of your catch can. I'm dripping oil all over the place. Is to create more surface area for the heat, and that gives it more opportunity to burn off. That's really what we're trying to do with the catch can, is to give it another reservoir for it to get hot, burn off, before all the gross stuff goes back into our engines. Let me let you take a look down in here. So it's kind of funny. The stuff that comes out looks like a cappuccino. Don't drink it. It's fuel and oil and a bunch of other gross stuff. On some catch cans, they have a spot at the bottom with a little ball valve, like a faucet, and you can dump the contents of the catch can without actually having to remove it like I'm having to do here. I mean, I could easily install one of those on here, but where I've got this sitting inside my car, the coolant reservoir sits right there. So I don't know. Taking it out is really not that big of a deal, and you don't really have to empty it all that often. Now, I've got a picture I'm going to show you right here. So this was right after I installed the catch can on my car. I took it from the Atlanta, Georgia area all the way up to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Here's a map of how far that is. Took it there and back, drove the whole way. It's mostly interstate, so roughly going about 120 kilometers per hour, about 70-ish miles per hour the whole way. The car running at 5,000 RPMs for that long probably is not the best thing for it, but I did it anyway. And when I came back, the catch can looked like this, just absolutely full. Now I posted this on a Facebook group, and I was like, cool, look at all the stuff my catch can pulled out for me. And I thought it was a good thing. And a bunch of the comments that I got were like, hey, there's something seriously wrong if your catch can's filling up that fast. And then people were letting me know, this amount is what they're getting after years of their catch can being installed. So I emptied it, and I was keeping an eye on it. And it's been, probably about 2 to 3 months since I've emptied this last and put the steel wool in, and that's all I've got. So I think maybe a combination of it running on the interstate for such a long period of time, 5,000 RPMs, not having the steel wool in there, and then really not having the catch can in the optimal place where it's getting warm the whole time. I think that was just a combination of things that caused it to fill up really fast. So that's just kind of an explanation of where I've been with this catch can. Now let's go put it back in. I've kind of been wondering if it is unburnt fuel and oil, how flammable is it? Not at all. I guess that's good. So here's something interesting. You know, I just put that baffle down there to shoot that explanation. I don't know if you can tell, the contents of the catch can's actually eating through this foam that I use to do demonstrations to keep my benches from getting super gross. So there obviously is enough gasoline inside there to eat through styrofoam. So that's cool. Okay, one more thing before we get to the install. So you can see this is the side coming from the crankcase. This is the ventilation. So this is coming into our catch can. I've got a paper towel in this one, but I got nothing in this one. You can probably see, I hope, this side is pretty dry and clean. I took the catch can off, let's see, about 2 days ago, and it looked just the same as this when I took it loose. So this is good. This is exactly what we want to see. We want to see goopy, gross, nasty oil cappuccino coming through this side, and this side to be nice and dry. So that means my catch can is doing its job. I haven't been taking long road trips recently, so you know, I really think that had something to do with it. So when I take this out, you can see down in there, yeah, frothy cappuccino juice down inside there. My paper towel's pretty gross. I don't know, maybe it's important every now and then to take this hose off and give it a good cleaning. I did make sure that it came at a downward angle, so it's on a downward slope to the catch can, so that way it's not running back into the crankcase. So it goes here and then it goes back up, so that way it has a chance to, you know, to breathe, so that way if the gross stuff were to make it past here, it wouldn't travel up gravity and then back down. It would kind of get here and maybe bubble back out in the catch can. Maybe I'm smart for doing that. Maybe it's unnecessary, but that's the way that I did it. You know, I had somebody say to me once that a determined lazy person is the person who's going to find the most efficient way to get something done. So that way they don't have to put as much effort into it. And that's kind of the inspiration for what I've got done here. So I have this longer bracket is going down into, there's a hole here for ventilation. Kind of sits down inside there, sits on top of the coolant reservoir, and goes through this hole here of where my headlight would normally connect if it were not broken. I haven't had any issues with this moving or dancing around. It stays pretty sit there. I mean, I feel like I could almost not even bolt it down and the hoses would keep it where it should be anyway. But for the sake of argument, and so that way my catch can doesn't fly around my engine and explode, I will go ahead and mount it up anyway. Okay, so it is sitting in there. We still need to hook up the lines. So obviously, kind of what I was saying earlier, and I don't know how well you can tell on this angle, since the catch can is sitting on top of the coolant reservoir, I can't just unscrew the bottom and take it loose. That's kind of what I was talking about. The lazy person thing is I just have this one screw here that I have to take off. I have to loosen up the hoses, and then I can pull the whole assembly out, clean it, you know, when it's necessary, and then install the whole thing back in. If I had mounted the top part in a way that was difficult to get out, and, you know, I just had it where I could unscrew the bottom piece, I might not ever look inside the top piece. There might be some gunk in there. So I feel like this is probably the better way to go. Your mileage may vary. So what we're going to do is hook up our lines. So remember what I said, that the line coming from the crankcase is the in. This is where this catch can, I think all of them are the same way, doesn't really work for this car. The in is on this side and the out is on this side, which means our hoses have to kind of do this. So we're gonna hook up the inside first, and I'm just gonna get that set on there and get my hose clamp pulled back where it needs to be there. And then we're going to take the outside. Of course, this is going back to the engine through that turbo area. Gonna get this guy put back on here. Nice. Okay. And on this catch can, I think I showed you over there on the bench, it is actually labeled in and out on both sides, which is good. Lets you know which side is which. I think if I wasn't paying attention, I could easily get these two reversed. Probably wouldn't work the way that it's supposed to if I did that. But the fact that it's labeled is nice, helps me keep track. So all we got to do now is tighten up these hose clamps and we're pretty much done. So that's pretty much it for a catch can. Not too hard if you're looking at getting involved in doing mods to your car. I think it's a pretty easy one. Not very expensive either. I mean, catch cans usually under $30 if you're trying not to buy a super expensive one. The hose, I think it was like 10 bucks at my local auto parts store. The most expensive thing was the coupler that I put in here. I think that was like $10, but honestly, if I had just bent this the way that I should have done it in the first place, wouldn't have been necessary. Quick mod you can do, you know, install, I think, took me about an hour just because I was trying to find the best way to mount this. I think that's where you're going to spend most of your time if you decide to do this. Take a look around, see if there's any other pictures of where people put them inside their cappuccinos. Like I've said before, you know, this is one of those videos I couldn't find on the internet. I couldn't find anybody else who has done this, so I decided, you know, let's go ahead and shoot one. So if anybody's, you know, searching for a cappuccino oil can install or oil catch can install, here you go. If you know more than me, if you have some experience with this, you know, if you see some things that I've done wrong, definitely go make your own video. We need some more of these out there. The more information we have on these cars, the better. I definitely think that's one of the downsides or one of the deterrents that people have when they're buying unique cars like this. It's just there's not a lot of information out there. And, you know, I love this car. I love driving it daily. And I would like to see more of them on the road. So if this video helped you out, fantastic. Glad. We'll have some more videos coming out soon. Thanks and see you then.